What's up, guys? I was out here recording something else, just finished a workout, and thought I might as well record this video on this topic that I was thinking about and ruminating, honestly, for like 20 plus years. This is something that's been in my mind for a while. In recent months, especially as my kids are getting older, this is something that's definitely in my mind, and that's this idea of social media. Now, this is maybe coming from like a male perspective because I'm a guy, so females might have a different perspective on how you view and how you interface with social media. I'd still argue to take everything I'm saying out and apply it to you all as well. But my point in saying this is, I always knew at the end of the day, even when Facebook first came out when I was in college, which I had a much different moral compass, much lower moral compass, was not into good things. Even at that point in time, and this is a message to you guys now, hopefully you guys are seeing, there's something wrong with social media. Granted, I understand I'm being hypocritical and kind of ironic that I'm talking to you guys via camera on YouTube and expressing myself. I think YouTube is a little bit of an exception. Maybe I can go into that, but I think certain cultures like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, I think those types of cultures, yeah, they have their own pros and cons, but if you really stop and think about what you're actually doing and how much time and also how much influence these things have in your lives, I really strongly encourage you guys to get rid of it, especially if you're a guy who has children and you're married. I think they do nothing but bad things. I mean, I think they do so many things from just honestly, just taking you away from your family, taking away from your physical time, just influencing you in the wrong ways. As a guy, you see the feeds of what come up, even on just like YouTube, like little banner ads. There's ads that come up, just the weirdest things in general. You're going to see that you have to honestly be exposed to. And that's why I think ad blockers are actually a useful tool to have. But even at a young age with Facebook and seeing when that came out, again, not in a good moral space for sure, but even at that time I realized something's weird about putting all my likes and dislikes, all my personal pictures on there. I was in a relationship, I met my wife in college, and even at that time I said, I just don't think we should be even beyond this. It's not gonna do me any good as a guy. I don't think it's gonna do you any good. I'm not trust her or anything like that, but just why would I want just that worldwide exposure to everything we're putting out there to be exposed to the world? And so we were kind of one of the first ones, and like people of friends that we knew, even for years now, we never had Facebook. People always thought we were kind of weird. But my wife always kind of saw that value in that. Flash forward many years, she got in stuff with Instagram, which I always thought was kind of a more feminine thing that now you see a lot of guys interact with that. And I might be preaching to the choir. It might be a lot of you guys who are watching and have this isn't you at all. You have no input in social media whatsoever, but I still think you can apply this to all media. But even I eventually got on Instagram only because my wife was on it. My other friends were on it, so I felt like I kind of had to like interface with it. And then even then I found myself being a slave to these things, even when I wasn't really engaging. I had no intention of like finding new people or communicating in that realm, but I kind of did. And I guess what I've kind of realized in more recent years, especially with having kids, is that if I don't want my kids to be on devices, hooked on devices, which when I talk to parents, all of them say, no one wants their kids on devices or iPads and tablets or being exposed to social media at an early age. All of them recognize the power of influence, not just in their kids, but on themselves. But they're so hooked on it, they can't pull that unplug switch to disengage from this medium. It's just impossible. And when I talk to my wife about, just get rid of your Instagram account, and I'm not trying to be controlling, I'm just saying, what good does it really do you? Who are these connections? And I guess my core argument is, if you didn't have this fake connection, this fake community, these quote unquote friends I think you'd more likely just be expressing yourself and being more open in your community, more face-to-face time with your spouse. In this case, I'm talking from a man. You can talk to your wife, your kids. And if we're trying to, walk the talk and preach to our kids about the dangers of social media and the dangers of media and what you watch, and we tell them, you can't watch this. If you are a parent or something, like you can't watch, X amount of hours of TV or video games, but then you're on your phone scrolling away because you're hooked on the system, which again, if you guys are probably watching this video, you may have seen other videos similar to this, maybe why you clicked on this, videos talking about the advantage of getting off social media. And I've done some dives into the research too, that just show there's really nothing, if you look at a pros and cons sheet, there's nothing that you're gaining that is really of any value. The stuff that you think you're getting, this quick dopamine fix, how these algorithms work on just maximizing essentially the reinforcement variables of rewards and punishment. That's what essentially allows us to kind of get engaged of reinforcing ourselves into these habits. If you look at the algorithms of how they put these things together, the marketing genius, they're engaged to influence us and get us engaged. You guys, I think, know that through, again, primarily rewards, likes, and stuff like that in those algorithms of things we like to see, we just keep on going. And then punishment, people not liking a picture, things we don't like to see, and that gets us angry. And that, again, keeps us further engaged in this medium. And again, I guess if I'm gonna summarize what I say, this is getting kind of ranty, is that if you just stop and think what you're doing, you and your family or you and your spouse, thinking about how we interface with this, and what if we just did not do this? How much time would we save? How much more authentic relationships we build, and also how we would be influenced in our own lives. I think that's a key thing too, recognizing and realizing that we know this for kids, but it's no different than adults. The way we act is who we surround ourselves by and the influences we input ourselves in. And I think it's no surprise when you think about the power of marketing and what these individuals are doing. These things are trying to influence us generally are not the best things. If you're a guy and even on YouTube, you see ads come up, they're the weirdest, most bizarre pictures and images that you have to deal with. So I'm not saying YouTube is really honestly any better. Instagram, no question, you can say it's an invitation to, looking at like lustful things or things you're not supposed to, especially if you're in a relationship. I'm not here to preach morals on you guys. Again, it's more or less preaching productivity and your own self-worth and self-development, that I think if we unplugged ourselves from the internet, unplugged ourselves from social media, I know it's hard to unplug ourselves from the internet, our lives would be so much better. I've done that a lot in our family, for myself. My wife has kind of fallen on board with this as well, and we both kind of agree that, yeah, it is night and day difference. The more engagement that you are with your kids, the more face-to-face eye time you have with your kids. Because it's one thing to be hypocritical and say, you can't go on video games, you can't have a device, you can't have a cell phone, but then the spouse is on there scrolling away. And this is something I find often with parents when I talk to parents, even people very close to me. They're, good parents, they mean well, but their kids have these cell phones at young ages. And I'm not here again to preach morals to you guys, but we all know what can happen with cell phones, right? Especially when I didn't have a cell phone, I knew I could be exposed to just with people and sharing things with me. Imagine if I had the internet at that age. When I talk to parents and I tell them, like, why do they have a cell phone? People that I have close to me that I can speak openly with, they'll just say, like, I know I shouldn't be giving it to them, but what can I do at this point? Everybody has one, they're used to it, and they say, well, why don't you just throw the phones away? Because you can't, you feel guilty. We're all hooked on it because you feel guilty throwing that away for them, because deep down, you'll be on the phone too, and it's no different. And it's really hard to totally unplug yourself. Back to kind of like social media and Instagram. When you think about just how odd and weird it is to share all your personal information. I know you might say with some of these are family and friends, and not everyone's openly sharing things with people. But even like, I had a coach at one of our, like my kid was in hockey, and the coach literally after the first practice reaches out and wants to friend request me and my wife on Instagram. And again, I'm not even that engaged in Instagram, but even then I'm like, this is just weird. I mean, why would this guy, I understand he's probably a nice guy, but why would I invite a total stranger to be opened up into my personal life of pictures of my kids, engagement with me and my spouse on an Instagram or social media platform? And so I know I'm painting this as a really negative picture. My point is, again, I'll wrap this up here and just saying, just pause, think about what you're doing. If you had a nice pro and con sheet of all the things that social media you think gives you as far as entertainment, these quote unquote connections that really aren't real connections in my opinion, versus if you got rid of it, what you'd actually be doing with your time to connect with people. If you made that pro and con list and consider what you're actually doing, I think most people will get rid of it. The hard thing is pulling that unplug switch. And I invite you guys, especially if you're a guy watching this, or if you're a wife, you're just a female, whatever, and you're engaged with social media, you're kind of addicted to it, all the influences, what social media does to you. I'm not gonna go through that, but just unplug it and see what happens. And then again, if you have kids and you feel like my kids are too ingrained with TV, they're too used to video games, I can't just throw it away, freaking just do it for a couple days, and you'll get used to it. The kids will be kind of bored over a few days, but they get super creative. I could go on forever and talk about that whole plus about that, but you and yourself and your whole family be much more creative. It'll be hard, but it's definitely worth it. So that's just some thoughts I have. If you guys have any thoughts on this, just any critiques to what I'm saying, I could be off base, not saying I know it all. Definitely let me know. I actually will probably rant about this later on because I got a lot more stuff to say about this, but that's it. Thank you.